Hi, this is Frederick from the techno label Detroit Berlin, and in this video we'll talk about the A-160-2. It's my second clock divider. I sold my first one, the A-160. It was the first clock divider Doepfer made, and it didn't really click with me. It was a more simple clock divider than the Dash 2, the second clock divider from Doepfer, which is, in my opinion, much more usable and much more interesting than the first one. But they each do their own thing. So let me maybe first quickly go over what the clock divider does. Pretty simple. You have an incoming clock or a gate or a trigger that will be used as a clock input for the clock divider, and it divides the incoming pulses. So what does the clock divider do? It's pretty simple. It divides clocks. When you feed it a signal, it can be a clock, like a stable clock. It will divide it to different outputs, and each output will have another division of that initial clock you send in to this clock divider. You can also just send it pulses or triggers or gates that are not really a clock, but they still will be divided. So every time you input a pulse or a gate or trigger, then the clock will put it out when that division is reached. And yeah, you can create interesting things with the use of that clock divider in that particular manner. So let me really quickly go over the in and outputs of this module. You've got the clock in, the reset in, and then you got 7 outputs, and these outputs are all the divisions from that clock input. And you got 2 switches. The first one, it switches between gate, trigger, and in the middle you can choose via a jumper on the back of the unit how you want it to be set up. You can have the inversed gate or the inversed trigger outs. So it's actually, instead of peaking at the moment you get the division, it's actually dipping and giving like a continuous signal all the way through. Just when it reaches that trigger, it will dip. Then you got division selector. You've got 2 to 128. Later I will explain how it really works. So you got 2 to 128. Then you've got the primes, and then you got 2 to 8. Let me explain the patch that I made and that you heard in the intro. So I got the quad ADSR from Doepfer, and I'm sending all kind of noise sources, pink, blue, brown, white noise, to the VCA. The quad ADSR is triggering that VCA to go open when there's a trigger. So the first one, actually the first 4 outputs go to this quad ADSR like this. And then I've got a little bit of a different setup. Then I have the complex envelope generator. And this complex envelope generator is actually, let me see, configured to, I hope I connect it as I did with the intro. I've got a steady signal coming from the rings. So I've got in total 8 sound sources. I've got the rings, I've got an IntelliGel wave shaper, and I've got a symbiotic waves from Pittsburgh Modular. I've got a Moog Voyager, and it's sending a clock to the clock divider. It's playing a little bass patch I made, really simple patch, but it's fun and it doesn't come too much to the foreground, so you can perfectly get a sense of how this clock divider works. So maybe I'm gonna undo what I just did like this, and let's here to the first one. And the first one is on every position it's a 2. So what that means is you send it a pulse in, it waits, you send it another pulse in, it triggers, you send it a third pulse in, it waits, you send it a fourth pulse in, it triggers again. So every pulse it waits and it triggers. So yeah, it's divided by 2. Very, very, very simple indeed. I introduce a second one, and it seems to trigger on the upbeat with this one, because it's now in the first position, and yeah, you got the 2, then you got the 4, the third one will be the 8, so it divides that, so that pulse that is first divided by 2 is now divided by 4. So every time the first division triggers, every other time the second division will trigger too. That's for the first position. If I put it down, then you get kind of almost syncopating rhythm. It will wait 2 times with the initial clock, and the third time it will trigger. So you get actually a rhythm that every 6 triggers will get in sync. And this one is a 5, so it waits 4 times and the 5th time it triggers. So the clock is divided by 5. When I flip the switch down, it will become 2, 3 and 4. So the middle position, they're primes, which goes like 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13 and 17. And the last position, every step it will take 1 step longer to trigger, so you got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the last one is 8. So then you get really almost, I wouldn't say swinging because there's not much swing, but yeah, you got something kind of. And this is more like living a little bit more. And this is really straight. The first one is really straight because they overlap. You got a 2, bam, then the 4, bam, then it goes again to 2, again to 4, and then it will trigger the 8th. When this whole cycle is done, it will trigger the 16, and it will wait and it will build again, and then it will trigger the 32 and so on until everything gets triggered. So when I play it really quickly, you can use it in audio mode, which means that if you feed it a pulse signal and you actually send the output to a mixer or just to an amplifier, then you have a pitched down voice. So that is nice to make like subharmonics. Okay, let's see. Maybe just take this one, put it back in the output. So these were the first four, and then we've got these ones, which I think went here like this. So these are more like synthesized voices, which means if we combine it, we get like more musical construction, because those last ones, except for on the first switch, they kind of really go all over the place, because they're kind of weird divisions. But that's actually very fun, and if you combine everything, and also got a little sequence with the rings. So now the switch to choose the divisions is in the up position, which means it's pretty simple, the rhythm. It's really straightforward. It just goes, the sounds overlap, they're really in time. But it gets interesting when you flip the switch and get really swinging. Actually, you get polyrhythms because they don't follow the same course. The divisions are a bit weirder. And they get together and then they go apart. But still synced to the grid, I would say. Now let's switch it up to the custom mode. Which means the gates are open all the time, except for when the trigger comes, then it really drops, and yeah, it triggers again and it holds that gate open all the time. And it's more like pulling because, yeah, it's a little bit late normally. So really nice, really hands-on. You just flip a switch and you got a new rhythm going. You can combine things, you don't need to use them all. It's a really nice way to make divisions and yeah, to keep everything in sync. I hope you like this little gem, this module from Doepfer, the A-160-2. I can really advise you to have it in your system. It's not that expensive. It's a little bit more expensive than the first clock divider, but it does so much more and I think it's so much more useful. So take a look at it. Have a go with it, and yeah, it's a really great module and it's needed in every modular system. So like I mentioned, you can use it in kind of an audio rate fashion. I've got a really simple, just a pulse going on one oscillator. Like this, very simple. I take the wave out and I put it in the clock in. Let me see, let's just put it on a gate actually. I'm gonna put it on a gate. I'm not going to use the trigger with this, maybe I'll do so in a minute. That will probably give a little bit more like a pulse than square wave. So let's take this output and let's put it in the noise in. So I'm mixing in. This is actually the output from the clock divider. And yeah, it keeps up, but I think the higher you go, it has a little bit trouble, I think, but it gives this nice crunchy, not perfect. Okay, so this is the inversed one. I think it has nice, quirkiness and texture to it. Let's maybe take one down. which is nice, really nice, but maybe take another division and then it will create something probably, yeah, atonal. I like it. The trigger out, it doesn't work that well when you go, yeah, lower and lower in pitch, because yeah, then you got only a trigger. In gate mode that works better, in my opinion. The further you go down, this is still pretty. This is really low. Weird interval, but yeah, sometimes it will work. It's nice. It's okay. It was the division of 11. This one is 13. This is also a little bit too atonal for me. Not too pretty, and let's maybe go. Atonal. It is nice. It's division of 6, then 5. A little bit more minor, but yeah, it's nice. 4, really basic, and 3 is okay. So yeah, I hope you really liked this episode. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hope to see you next time. Take care and thanks for watching.